I've often said this is one of the most difficult aspects of PC building. Front I/O wiring. And look, that isn't saying much because PC building is generally fairly easy once compatibility concerns are alleviated. I find compatibility to probably be the most confusing aspect of PC building. But if we had to rank steps, I'd say front I/O wiring is one of the more difficult tasks on the list, depending on how many cables need connecting. And on top of that, the cables are freaking small to begin with. So let's get started then. How to wire front I/O. Stay with me.
If you're sick of seeing that same Activate Windows watermark over and over, snag an OEM license from SCD Key. You'll have a fully activated OS in seconds, and you can kiss that watermark goodbye. And be sure to use manual offer code GSL for that sweet discount.
So the easy thing for me to say in this case would be, open your manual. Your motherboard manual will show pinouts for this bundle, and it should detail everything you need to know. But assuming you aren't a manual kind of guy, and I wouldn't blame you, I'll show you how to wire it in this video. First, you'll need to locate the pin bundle on the board. Typically, it'll be in the bottom right-hand section, something labeled JFP1, or a bit more obvious, front or front I/O. Most of the time, the pinout will be oriented in such a way that a cluster of 4 pins plus 1 blank to the right will be on top, followed by 5 solid pins below. Solid pins. What are they, like hollow pins too? Anyway, we'll assume this for the remainder of the video, this orientation here. In the JFP1 standard, the uppermost left pins, that's these two right here, are for the power LED wires. Most cases will include these wires, but some still won't. But in short, choosing to leave these disconnected shouldn't harm anything about the stability long-term of your system. These are just little LEDs that show you when your system is on. Most of the time, the positive pin will be this one right here, furthest to the left, while the negative pin sits just to the right of it. Some boards will include polarity markings directly over the pins to reassure you of which one is which, but you can always reference the manual to be sure. The wires themselves, by the way, should also have plus and minus indicators, so make sure to match these up. The next duo to be concerned with are the two just to the right of where we just worked, these two right here next to the blank pin. These are traditionally for your case's power switch, and every legitimate, at least, case out there should require this connection, unless you're using like a cardboard box that doesn't have power switch. Otherwise, if you're building outside of a case, you might also not have that. You can jump these 2 pins with a screwdriver or something similar to turn on your system. And since all they do is open or close a circuit, polarity in this case is irrelevant. To keep things clean, however, I like to connect these wires with the text facing downward. Now on to the bottom 5 pins. And in truth, we'll only actually be concerned with the 4 to the left. Starting first with these two, these are for a hard drive LED indicator. Now again, not all cases will have this feature, and it's fine if it remains disconnected. But in short, connecting these wires here should be as straightforward as it was for the power LED indicator. The positive pin is usually to the left, and the negative pin is usually to the right. Just mind the markings again on the wires themselves. And lastly, the reset switch pins. Again, optional for most cases, but it's nice to have when troubleshooting especially, and you should connect them in my opinion if they are available. Polarity is again irrelevant here, since all we're doing is opening and closing a circuit. Simply slide the connector into the pins just below the power switch, again, preferably with the text facing downward just to keep things a bit more clean. Now, a bit of a side note, I know I'm discussing this header from the top down, but it's actually easier to connect these wires from the bottom up. That way you can see exactly where you're plugging things in. It's a bit difficult to see the bottom pins when the top ones are already covered by wires. Since you'll likely be doing all this anyway inside of whatever case you happen to be using, it can be difficult to see things underneath as well. And in case you're wondering, no pun intended there, this pin here, pin 9, is reserved and does literally nothing. It's more or less used to verify orientation of the header. So I hope this short little video has cleared up any fears or doubts you had about this step of the PC building process. Look, in truth, I'm asked about this part quite a bit by first-time builders especially, and I figured a little video on the matter would be better than, telling whoever asked me to just look through the manual for the answer. I mean, the answer is there, and you should kind of sort of familiarize yourself with the manual, but the video is always nice as well, just to make sure that you're doing it correctly. If you guys like the video, thumbs up, consider clicking the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.